Take a look at these images. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you see images like this? Are you in favor of displaying the mummies openly, or are you part of the few who believe that studying the mummies will actually help us learn more about their history? No matter where you stand on this topic, one thing is absolutely clear. These mummies are not resting in peace, as they should be. Instead, they are resting in European museums across the world. So in this video, we are going to learn more about the bizarre history of how Europe became obsessed with Egyptian mummies. But before we start this video, kindly subscribe to this channel for more amazing content. Thank you. Europeans have been obsessed with ancient Egyptians and their mummies to the point that when you enter a museum, there are high chances that one of the attractions on display will be an Egyptian mummy. And the excuse they give is that they want to learn more about such individuals from the past. But why is that? Why would they put someone who's been gone for thousands of years in a temperature-controlled room for strangers to see? Especially that they don't do this to any other ancient civilization except with ancient Egypt. The answer might surprise some of you because this obsession has been going on for centuries and it wasn't for academic purposes. These mummies have been a commodity because of the medicinal, supernatural, and physical characteristics they were believed to possess. So as far back as the 11th century, merchants have been making profits from trafficking mummies out of Egypt and into Europe, which started something known as mummy trade. So, what was the mummy trade, and how did it start a culture of digging up graves for profits? To better understand that, we need to understand how ancient Egyptians viewed mummification. They believed that mummifying the body will keep the body intact so it could be transported to a spiritual afterlife. It became one of the most important rites for most individuals throughout its history. Fast forward several centuries and these mummies were turned into a highly profitable commodity. And there were several ways the Europeans used these mummies, but let's start with medication. In the 15th century, there was a belief that mummies had supernatural medicinal properties because they believed they contained a substance called bitumen. Bitumen, as we know today, is a dangerous substance that's used in road constructions, but back then, it was a great deal in healing wounds and a range of maladies. European scholars in the Middle Ages associated bitumen with the blackish substance found in the tombs of Egypt. So naturally, they started the hunt to find more mummies. The demand was so high that some merchants were starving captives and giving them special medications before taking their lives in their sleep, then draining blood out of their bodies and mummifying them. In simple terms, the merchants were taking modern corpses and turning them into ancient mummies to tackle the demand. The second way they used these mummies was in their art. Yes, it was in their art through a pigment called mummy brown. From the 16th century, this particular pigment became popular among European artists because of its richness and versatility. Even though it's impossible to determine the number of paintings it was used on, this pigment was in use until the 1960s, and the company that produced them stopped because they ran out of mummies. In the 18th century, mummies being used as medicine slowly died off, but then came the age of the academics, something we still see to this day. During that century, a culture started where scholars would hold events to unwrap mummies in front of an audience. This went on until it reached its peak in the 19th century after Napoleon invaded Egypt. Napoleon brought in scholars because he was fascinated by ancient Egypt, which started a practice called Egyptology, and it only meant that more mummies would be dug up for academic purposes. Except it wasn't the case. It started a race to find mummies for those events for profit while paying little respect to these ancient ones. There is a story of some explorers excavating a pharaoh's tomb only to discover a mummified hand complete with bracelets. And instead of somehow preserving the hand, they took away the jewelry and tossed the hand into the trash. So it stands to reason that most Egyptologists are not in the field because of the passion, but are still following the steps of the merchants who started the mummy trade centuries ago. The European obsession with the mummies is the main reason mummies are so rare in Egypt today. Of course, not all Egyptologists are in the field for the prophet, but there is a reason why these tombs were sealed. It's because they want to rest in peace in the afterlife as they believed, and digging them up is a total disrespect and disregard to these great people from the past. Learning history is great. That's how we get to learn more about ourselves. But we don't need to destroy history for a profit and pay little to no respect to the people who made them. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.